We are back with the Straw Hat Power Series, and we're finally talking about somebody who's been getting a lot of shine recently, and that is Franky. It feels like this series is just kind of following which Straw Hat gets enough shine, and I'll start to talk about them. Franky, of course, recently drove a bike into Big Mom's face and also radical beamed a number by himself, so it's definitely a good time to talk about Franky. And Franky is a very interesting subject for this because I feel like he's severely underrated. And this is coming from me, somebody who's not the biggest fan of Franky, like in terms of rankings amongst the Straw Hats, he's probably on the lower end. I'm just not a big fan of his post-time skip design, and his whole thing of like lasers and cannons and big shoulders and everything is just not really my thing. But I will not deny that this man is an absolute unit, and I think he's really strong and really hasn't showcased what he's capable of. I think Franky's a beast, to be honest with you, and frankly, that 94 million berry bounty is pretty disrespectful. So in this video, we're going to be breaking down all of Franky's powers, what he has showcased so far, and what he potentially could still showcase, and also theorizing what his next form is, his next battle Franky, his final form, and how strong that could be. And if you like videos like this, please hit that like button for the YouTube algorithm. So let's break down Franky's strength. Now obviously Franky is very unique in that he is a cyborg, so most of his power and upgrades and strength all come from technology. So as far as like pre-time skip, he was already showcased to be very durable and strong. His body is able to take on bullets, and his physical attacks alone will completely just do a number on you because he's made out of metal. Like, let's not forget when he was first introduced, he was soloing Luffy for a while, and we were really thinking, whoa, is Franky gonna be like one of the strongest of the Straw Hats now? But yeah, beyond just the metal casing that he made himself after that sea train accident, he went another level beyond that because he wanted to be super. His right hand is detachable and he could kind of launch it with a chain and uses it as a strong right attack. His left hand is weapons left and he has a bunch of guns installed into there that he could shoot bullets with. Pre-time skip, he also had these shoulder cannons, which were probably one of the most horrifying things I've ever seen in One Piece. But he stretched out his shoulders with cannons and he could kind of shoot stuff out with that as well. One really unique thing I feel like a lot of people overlook is the fact that he could breathe fire, and I feel like as far as upgrading his technology, that's something he could really explore and upgrade. Franky could also just really rip ass with coup de boo, just this big explosion out of his ass. It's partly comedic, but at the same time, he almost escaped with Robin back in Innie's lobby because of it. But finally, pre-time skip, his big move was the coup de vent, where he could put both hands together and launch this big burst of air and just blast people away. So that was his main arsenal of moves pre-time skip, and those all got upgraded post-time skip. So during the time skip, Franky gets blasted off to this island where Vegapunk used to live, and he ends up pressing the self-destruct button, which I don't blame him. Like, why is that button there in the first place? But luckily for him, he has access to all this experiments and blueprints and everything that Vegapunk used to work with, so he kind of rebuilt his body from that. And he came back an absolute unit of a cyborg. He doesn't really even look human anymore, and to me, the design was a little over the top. It definitely makes him strong, but it kind of took away from like his human side, and most importantly, I really liked his hair pre-time skip. He still busts it out sometimes, but the buzz cut Franky, I'm not a fan of. But back to Franky's power, obviously post-time skip, he decked himself out. He's got these huge shoulders, his body is gigantic now, his arms and fists are both huge. So once again, just from that alone, he could kind of protect himself a little more with a lot of surface area to kind of use as a shield. His boxing skills are just elevated to another level now because he could just punch away with these gigantic arms and fists. He did definitely skip leg day, but that's okay because I feel like there are aspects where he can improve with that in the future. But yeah, his overall structure is just stronger. Like, his strong right is even more devastating now because he's kind of just launching this probably 50-pound fist right into your face. Weapons left is also way upgraded now. It's pretty much like he has a bunch of machine guns attached to his fist there, and he could just mow people down like that. His fresh fire attack, which I mentioned was one of his more unique attacks, he turned that into an attack called Fireball. And I think it gets overlooked how strong this attack is because he only used it once on Punk Hazard, but it essentially just blew up this entire room with a bunch of flames. It was just massive amount of fire. But that's not even his most devastating attack. He's got giant shoulders now, so he doesn't have to stretch out his shoulders to make those weird looking cannons. The giant ball shoulders contain like literally rocket launchers that he could just shoot at people. Coup de boo is still a thing, so my man could still rip ass like a champ. It's I don't know if it's really stronger, but it's definitely, it was pretty strong before. It's still about the same strength at the very least. The more impressive upgrade is his coup de vent, the big attack attack that he had pre-time skip, which required 2 hands before, now he could just do it with 1 hand. But he still has his 2-hand go-to final attack, and that is the Radical Beam, which we just saw like 2 chapters ago, just taking out a number with like essentially 1 shot. So the Radical Beam, I would say, is his second strongest attack because he had one more thing up his sleeve, and that is the Franky Nipple Lights. Those things are monstrous. Okay, that's a joke, but the Radical Beam is actually Franky's second strongest thing, I think, because he did create the BF-38, the General Franky. So the General Franky is what's on Franky's poster right now, and I really think it's probably his ultimate strongest form right now. When it was first introduced, it was kind of used as a gag, just this big monster that Franky didn't really even showcase in Fishman Island. He was just kind of sitting in it and moving around while still just using his own attacks from his body. But later on, we do find out more information about it and how strong it actually is. So General Franky was really the big thing that Franky created and took away from Vegapunk's blueprints. He noted that one of the things that Vegapunk wanted to create was shape memory alloy, which the General Franky is made of, and that's a metal that could change form depending on the temperature, so it's not only very elastic but also very durable. And the General Franky is made from one of those alloys, which funnily enough is Wapol metal. For those of you that don't know, Wapol metal is what got Wapol back on the map after his defeat in Drum Island. So he ended up eating a bunch of toys, and eventually what he ate and produced turned out to be this shape memory alloy. So that's kind of funny, like Vegapunk, this genius, somebody who's like researching this, trying to figure it out, and then you have Wapol that just ate a bunch of toys and created it by sheer luck. But yeah, Franky took a bunch of Wapol metal and made General Franky out of that, so it's definitely more durable than himself. And another point, just to showcase how valued that shape memory alloy is, the Vinsmoke raid suits are made out of a similar alloy. It's not made out of Wapol metal, but it's a similar thing. So General Franky, incredibly durable, it's fire resistant, and as we saw when it first went into like some serious action against Baby 5 and Buffalo, it was just tanking hits left and right, missiles, rockets, it didn't really matter. All it did was like got knocked down and then got right back up without any issues. And honestly, we really haven't seen the General Franky in that much action, but in the little action we've seen so far, it's pretty OP. Like just in durability alone, we saw it was able to tank a bunch of hits from Baby 5, but the fact it's made out of the same like similar kind of metal from like the raid suits just kind of shows how strong it is. Like we just saw Sanji tank a hit from King. I'm guessing the General Franky could maybe do a similar type of thing. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna say it definitely could tank a hit from King because it actually tanked a hit from Big Mom. Chopper and Usopp were in the Brachio tank, which is part of the General Franky, and Big Mom punched that thing straight up and it just activated some sort of defense and walked right off. So this thing is clearly very, very durable. And as far as offensively, we really haven't seen that much from it, but there's a lot of potential there. Like you're assuming he could punch away, and he has a big sword that he could use as well, just being more stronger and durable. He could definitely deal more physical attacks. It also has weapons left, which is stronger than Franky's weapons left because it has more weapons. But the big attack that Franky used against Baby 5 and Buffalo, just sending them off like they were Team Rocket, that was the General Cannon, which is essentially the Sunny's Gaon cannon, but it's essentially portable now. So to sum it all up, just from what we've seen already and what we know, Franky is looking pretty decent. Like not many people could actually even damage him when he's in the General Franky, and he's got an arsenal of weapons and moves that could deal a lot of damage. Like if you get hit with that General Cannon, you're getting blasted off. It doesn't matter how strong you are. And I don't even feel like we've seen the peak of Franky's power, and I feel like he has a lot of stuff up his sleeve. So let's talk about what he could potentially still showcase and how he could potentially upgrade what he already has. First off, one of his main weaknesses that we just don't see him use very often are his legs. Franky is not a leg guy. He skips leg day. He kind of just leaves all the kicking stuff to Sanji. But there was one attack that we saw Franky use back in the day with his legs, and it was an iconic move, and that was the Franky Kentars. Now, it was a very gaggy, funny thing that really didn't do much. It was just like he had like the legs backwards. He was looking really silly. But that was a form that Franky was really proud of, and I don't feel like he would just get rid of it. I know post-time skip, he did create that effect where he could turn his legs into like tank wheels, but that's boring. I want to see Franky upgrade his Franky Kentars form and maybe have it actually be useful, because if he does it right, it might actually be useful. Like centaurs have their strengths, and the cavalry was always something utilized in military. The big benefit is like they have that speed and power to like ability to charge forward really fast while still being very mobile and having that upper body control. So like what if he made that form like really functional? Like he can actually run really fast and jet around and dart around like a horse. Meanwhile, his upper body can just turn around and shoot rocket launchers and bullets and lasers, and it can maybe just slide back and forth between those legs and spin him around and all that. Like, that would make him very versatile, especially with the amount of power and ammunition he has. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I want to see Franky's Centaur form return. Let me know in the comments below if you want to see it too. But beyond Franky bringing back that iconic form, I think Franky developing elemental attacks could be very useful as well. I mentioned how Fresh Fire was a really unique thing because it's not only a very like high damage fire attack, but it could also counter certain devil fruits. Like if Franky went against Monet, I think he could win because he has that Fresh Fire / Fireball attack. And if he's able to figure out ways to incorporate other things like electricity or like water, he could really be a good counter for some of these other devil fruit users. Now this one, there really hasn't been that much foreshadowing for. It's kind of just a crazy headcanon idea, but I would like to see it happen. But in general, one of the things that I have a gripe with like the majority of the Straw Hats is most of them, if they went against a Logia, they would probably just lose because they have no way to counter most of them. And for Franky, I don't feel like he's gonna develop armament hockey. It just wouldn't really fit his like progression course. He's a cyborg. He's always been about those technology upgrades and weapons upgrades, so I don't think hockey is the way for him to go. Now one thing you could do is bring in Sea Stone implementation with Franky, and this is a thing that I feel like could work with a lot of the Straw Hats because we are in Wano where a lot of Sea Stone is. So if you don't want to have all the Straw Hats kind of develop hockey, you could kind of just give some of them Sea Stone, and Franky would be one that really benefits from this. Like if he could incorporate some Sea Stone into his armor, into his fists, that would make him very, very strong. Now at this point, we're pretty much already talking about upgrades, so let's just jump into what Franky's final form could look like. I do think there will be more power-ups and upgrades for all the Straw Hats across the board because I do think there's going to be at least one big final war left that they really have to power up for. So for Franky, I think a BF-39, a final form, a final battle Franky would be very fitting for him. Now as far as where he could upgrade, one comparison you could try to draw from is Iron Man, because despite how different they look, Franky's design and his attacks and power definitely draws a lot of inspiration from Iron Man. Shooting off the rockets and using like physical combat as well and using all these machine guns, that's very Iron Man like, and Big Mom literally called Franky Iron Man a couple chapters ago, and that was in the official translation, so clearly Oda is taking Iron Man inspirations for Franky. And when we compare Franky to Iron Man, there are a lot of differences, but one thing really stands out, and that is Iron Man has the ability to fly. And you know what, when I thought about this, I was pretty surprised, like, how come Franky doesn't know how to fly? I feel like he would kind of like figure something out like that already. I mean, don't get me wrong, there is the Franky Skywalk. I'm sure he upgraded that as well, but that's kind of a temporary thing. So like, I think Franky learning how to fly would be very cool and could be very useful as well. Like we talked about him jetting around like a horse, but what if he's just flying around and launching all these missiles around? Like that's what makes Iron Man so special. He's able to just kind of fly around and jet around and just launch all these attacks. Now again, with this, there's really been no foreshadowing of Franky possibly learning how to fly. Like he hasn't really even shown interest in it. A good way to like kind of incorporate this would have been like to use those dials back in Skypiea, but Franky wasn't there and like there's no real connection way to bring it back. I think it would be really cool if Franky could learn how to fly, but I don't know how likely that is to happen. I also wonder with Franky's final form, is he going to like upgrade his own body or upgrade the general Franky more? Because although I do believe the general Franky right now is his strongest form, I like the idea that he could rely on his own strength a little more and not this like another like mech suit when he's already a cyborg. You know, he was upset when the general Franky was the one to appear on the bounty poster, so maybe that like kind of inspires him to upgrade himself a little more and rely on himself. But at the same time, the general Franky is very diesel and he's already in it right now in Wano, so it looks like he's about to use that power again. It's possible that Oda just wants to show more of General Franky's powers and just kind of show us the full arsenal of what it's capable of before going back to Franky's base form and really diving deep into that, upgrading that, and showcasing what Franky is really capable of. Another thing I feel like is kind of lacking with Franky is lasers. He doesn't really have that many lasers attack. Like that's another thing that Iron Man utilizes a lot. I mean, we do have the radical beam, which is kind of like a laser, right? But that's his like one big ultimate move. Does he have like smaller moves that he could use on a smaller scale? It looks like the radical beam is kind of inspired from like Kizaru's Pika Pika no Mi, so maybe he could develop similar types of attacks. That would be really cool. Ultimately, I'm just hoping think Franky gets a lot more shine in this arc with his fights, showcasing more of the General Franky and what it's capable of. Himself as well in a challenging duel where he really just has to pull out all the tricks from his bag, because as badass as the Senor Pink versus Franky fight was, that was just straight up a suplex battle mostly. So Franky really hasn't been able to showcase all his moves yet, and I'm really excited to see what he has. One final thing I forgot to touch on is within all the blueprints that Vegapunk had left behind, one of them was regarding cell development, so maybe Franky could kind of incorporate that somehow as well, especially now he has access to Sanji's raid suit and he can kind of study it and maybe take some things from there as well. So it'd be a way of like maybe Franky figuring out a way to improve his own body rather than like kind of just building more metal and with using better metal and using more weapons. Another direction you could go is kind of Franky using more technology within his brain and making himself like an aimbot, but I feel like that's just like making him way too robotic. He'd be almost like those pacifistas at that point, and the good thing about Franky is he has his own personality, he's super, he's funny, he has to stay himself. But yeah, those overall are my thoughts on Franky, his strength, his potential upgrades, and what his final form could look like. What about you guys? How strong do you think Franky is? What more do you want to see from him? And what do you think he could upgrade in the future? Let me know in the comments below. But as always, thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. If you did enjoy, please hit that like button, helps a lot with the YouTube algorithm. And as always, you want to keep up to date with when I'm posting new videos or doing new live streams, you gotta hit that subscribe button. By the time this video goes up, the King Pirates crew should be over 4,900 members, 100 away from our Discord at 5K goal. Like I said, once we hit that goal, look out for a celebration stream, and I will launch the Discord in that stream. But I just gotta say thank you guys so much for the support, for being patient with me while I've been so busy at school. Welcome to the crew, to all the new members, and we're just so close to this another big milestone, and I'm just really grateful for you guys. So let's keep it rolling, hit that subscribe button, and get us to that 5K goal. Be sure to also follow me on Twitter, I'm DKing4, got a video for you right there, playlist for you right there, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.